Welcome to your Inner Wisdom in Fluid Form. My name is Charis Rogosky. I'm a certified craniosacral therapist, and I have once again with me, and I'm so delighted to have here Don Ash. He's a craniosacral therapist and founder of the Craniosacral Therapy Alliance in Stratford, New Hampshire. And last time we were talking, you were mentioning the founders of the work. Where did the work come from? Who started to develop these techniques, and what the premise was for those techniques, and how that developed as we went through the founders in the work. And you mentioned before we got finished intention. You said something about intention. If this touch with cranial work is so light and so subtle, what is the force actually that provides an opportunity for change for the patient?
Thank you for that. That's a beautiful question, and it cuts to the heart of what we do. And Upledger was the one that came right out and said, you know, our force is intention. All the founders from Emanuel Swedenborg back in 1719 said that there was a wisdom in the movement of the waters of the brain. And that's the basis of my most recent book, Body of Water, Ocean of Mind, brings that to the forefront. Intention is our force. That's why our touch is so light, because it's done with good intention. And the four tenets of the work that I say as a therapist you need to try to employ all the time is to be impartial, non-judgmental, ego-subordinated, that's a tough one, and unconditionally present. Because it's different than providing a dosage of a therapy to someone, or a certain quanta of exercise or some type of process. This is blending with the person's inner wisdom that's reflected in the waters of the brain and inviting that wisdom to change. And so one would say, where does that come from? I mean, I know the founders alluded to it, but is there more a scientific nature about water, for example? And in fact, there is. Because there was a wonderful naturalist. He was Japanese, and the man died most recently in the last couple of years. His name was Masaru Emoto. And you could Google that and look at E-M-O-T-O, Emoto. He wrote some New York bestseller books, The Power of Water, The Hidden Messages of Water. He's a wonderful man. He was asked years ago, in a random conversation, are all snowflakes, you're a naturalist, are all snowflakes alike? And he said, you know, I don't know. So I'm going to see. So he took a water sample. He took 5 cc's of water in a petri dish, froze it, a very specific formulation. He froze it at 27 degrees Fahrenheit for over 3 hours, and then he brought it out, put it under a microscope with a camera, let it thaw, and as it thawed, he took pictures of the water. And he did 1 water sample, 2 water samples, and he did all that. And then he compared the quality and formation and color and geometry of the crystals. And what he found, lo and behold, they were all different. Snowflakes are as different as the thousands and millions, trillions of snowflakes in a snowstorm. So then he thought, can they be influenced by anything? Can they be affected by anything? So this is really powerful. He took 1 water sample, divided it into 2, and he put it in the same process of freezing it and then looking at it. But before he did, as he put it in the freezer, with tape on one, he wrote love, and on the other, he wrote you fool. And he froze it, 27 degrees Fahrenheit, 3 hours, looked at it, and on the one that was love, it was geometric, symmetrical, octagonal, rainbow, beautiful crystals. And on the other, it was random and dark and only fragments of crystals. He said, this process is exactly, I'm a scientist, this is the exact process. The only thing I changed was my intention.
Wow.
And so his hypothesis that he went on and is world famous for is that water has consciousness. Water has intelligence. Water responds by way of intention.
Wow.
Now, what does that have to do with craniosacral therapy? Well, it's really good news. because cerebral spinal fluid, the waters of the brain, are 98 to 99% agua, water. And so as a therapist, when I'm saying that we set the intention, we provide an environment for change. If I hold you from the feet or other listening stations that we have in the body, and I set my intention to say silently to myself, come on, water, help heal this person. Water, do what you need to for the better good, for the greatest good of this person. If I initiate that consciousness, that intention, we have found, and the founders thought that this was true, it ignites the healing processes of the body. And it ignites that non-conscious aspect of the waters of the brain that Swedenborg and A.T. Still and Sutherland said had origins in the divine. And Sutherland said, be still and know. And if we do that, it changes things. It changes the dynamics of what we are as therapists. And it changes the way we treat people. And it also brings up an awareness of the non-conscious. You know you have a beautiful friend inside you, and she's been with you all the days of your life. She's your non-conscious. She's been with every aspect of your life. And if you had a hard patch, and something was too much to bear, she may have held it for you in your body. When you lay on the table and you be still, and we're listening to the cranial rhythm, and we go into what we call a still point, sometimes that raises up, and we have emotions come up and out of the body. It's called somatoemotional processing. And that's a very broad term that's used in a lot of things. It is not any kind of psychotherapy. There's no psychodynamic, psychoprocess, psychoanalysis. There's nothing like that. It's just witnessing and encouraging the body to change. Here's the example. Someone comes in to my office. I'm a physical therapist. Somebody comes in my office like this, with a hand and a fist. Don, here's some order from the doctor. Range of motion of the fingers. I think it's ultimate physical therapy. I think I have an obligation to first see if I can help the person stop making a fist. Don't I? Can I get them quiet and relaxed and comfortable and get the central nervous system ready to respond, ready to change? Now we can go through our physical therapy and our range of motion. I think it's ultimate physical therapy. I combine craniosacral therapy with almost all my patients. But I do so in order to prepare them for what else I do, which is exercise, myofascial release, massage, and home exercise programs. So there's no person in my practice that I do craniosacral therapy alone. I prepare them for exercise by using craniosacral therapy. And I think it gets them to the point where they can relax. And the central nervous system now is nutritionalized so it can respond. This is how we can work with children to help them developmentally. If they've had a difficult birth, we encourage the bones which don't have any joints, that are cartilaginous plates, we can encourage that to become free. And we encourage the central nervous system to work and grow and evolve and develop as best we can.
So you can work with children?
Oh, yes. My youngest patient was 4 hours old. I have worked with children. I think we're going to be asked to work more and more with Zika babies, and autism, which is it's now 1 in 40 male births. That's a big thing. There's also a process where we can hold a person in the end of life, on the other cycle of the cycle of life. And I have an advanced class called Craniosacral Therapy Around Death and Dying. It's really a class about living and life. And so there's many deaths in life that can cause physical holdings in the body, emotional holdings in the body, and thereby musculoskeletal tensions in the body, like divorce and job change and relocation. And loss of a body part, a leg or a breast or an eye, loss of a function if you had a stroke and you no longer can walk or talk, the death of a pet. and actually the death of a loved one, and actually our own death. Is there a place in this work called craniosacral therapy for us to be of service in a very gentle, light touch way as a person is attempting to drop their body? I think there is. And I can tell you from my experience holding my mother and my grandmother that the breath stopped, and then the heartbeat trailed away, and then the cranial rhythm trailed away, and then she was gone. And so going back to A.T. Still and Emanuel Swedenborg, I think it is our divine nature, and I think the cranial rhythm is an avenue for ejecting the soul onward. And so I think craniosacral therapy is a wonderful tool. It doesn't cure or heal anything, but it helps the body and then helps the person be who they're supposed to be. And so you see, when we give this to other people, we learn ourselves and we grow ourselves. And it just may be that we're the ones we've been waiting for to make the world a touch better. And that's,
Wonderful.
I think, the essence of what we do.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you.
Thank you for the
I'm
opportunity.
so happy, and I hope we hear more about this.
Oh,
and
I'm
we can do
coming
more.
back.
Okay. Don has his teaching curriculum if you'd like to look into that. If you're a licensed healthcare practitioner or someone that simply wants to learn some cranial techniques to help a loved one, family, or friends, you can contact the Craniosacral Therapy Alliance. They have a website, CSTAalliance.com, and there are phone numbers, correct? There are methods of contacting you?
Yes, that's on the website.
On the
Yep.
website, okay. Don's an author. You mentioned Lessons from the Sessions, another book, Body of Water. We were talking about water, and you have a whole book about water. Yeah.
And I have a handbook that is really the structural portion of the work with hand placements of the first 3 classes that we offer with pictures and anatomy. I'm part of what I think my teachers represented, know your anatomy. And there's an anatomy basis for this wonderful work.
Terrific. Thanks so much. It's such an honor for me to be a part of this.
It's a
Yeah.
pleasure. You're a wonderful therapist in your own right and teacher.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been your Inner Wisdom in Fluid Form. Thanks so much for joining us. Check in again for more episodes on your Inner Wisdom in Fluid Form. Thanks for listening.